Everyone. Good night, everyone. Welcome to ACOT's webinar in Digital Technology and Therapy, a digital inclusion for the elderly. Tonight we have Kheston Walkins, the founder of CommuniCare.
Hi.
We're grateful for him for helping us with this webinar. Over to you, Kheston.
Okay. Aces, thanks a lot for having me on. I think I am actually looking forward to doing this chat today. It's going to be very interactive, so I hope you know that, Stephanie. Because you're the expert on occupational therapy, I'm going to be giving my sort of technological lens on it. So what I can do first is give you some of my background. So first up, I studied medical neuroscience at the University of Sussex in Brighton, England. I came back to Trinidad. I did research in epilepsy and anxiety. And then after that, I started doing my PhD in molecular genetics in the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. So in a sense, my background is a lot of neuroscience and behavior as well as data science, right? And I love these two things. They're really, really fun. They help me wake up in the morning and all that stuff. But it doesn't really explain how I got into doing health technology specifically, apart from the obvious, I have an interest in it. So a little later on in this talk, we're going to go through something called CommuniCare, which is a communication platform for helping people to manage the care of their loved ones from anywhere in the world. But as with any awesome thing, they have origin stories, right? So the origin story for CommuniCare is as follows. So a couple of years ago, there was a friend of mine. She was actually Grenadian, nice, lovely lady, and she had a stroke. She was unable to move, talk, or laugh with either me or her family. And, aphasia, having to go through that experience of being able to talk one day and then not being able to even move the next day or laugh is very, very traumatic, as you guys probably know, because you probably see a lot of these patients, because stroke is very, very common in the Caribbean, especially in Trinidad. It's well over 3,000 patients each year, new stroke victims each year. So it's a serious issue. So anyways, she was in the hospital, and her family asked me to come by to see what was going on. So I said, well, yeah, sure, okay. I'll do that to see how I can help. And I met 3 sets of complaints. And the thing is, as therapists, you probably meet the same things. On one hand, you have the caregiver, which in this case was the nurses. Second is the family, and then finally, the actual patient. So with the caregivers, they were saying, well, the nurses, we don't know when she needs to be cleaned, when she needs to be fed, because she can't tell us, she can't communicate with us. And then that in itself precipitates the anxieties of the family, because they're saying, well, she's not getting the care that she needs to get, they're not taking care of her properly, it's yada, yada, yada. And then finally, the patient, who in this case, they can't talk, but I'm sure you'll meet other patients where, they can't move, they're limited mobility, but they also have their gripes and their stresses. And in this case, it was on her face, the discomfort, the stress, the worry, the panic, and these kinds of things. Not to mention the aphasia, which she was presenting with, the muttering. So I asked the nurses, surely it's not the first time that we've had a stroke patient in Trinidad in our hospitals. So what do you guys usually do to work with them? And well, they said, well, we figure it out. And I thought that was very, very interesting, because what do you mean you figure it out? It's either they train our nurses in clairvoyance or some kind of mind reading ability, but it was something that I thought that we needed to address. So I went off looking for a chart or something like that, and I couldn't find one. And eventually, after a long series of things, I decided to go into CommuniCare, right? This is, like I mentioned, the care and communication platform for helping families or even clinicians to manage the care of their loved ones or patients from anywhere in the world. So now that you have sort of the beginning story for this, I think it would it'd be good for me to talk about the relevance of this to occupational therapists, right? So I don't know if you have any questions to me so far, Stephanie. No. If there's anything I might have missed, and carry on, yeah?
We can carry on. We have no questions yet.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So like I mentioned, the question was, what is the relevance of this to occupational therapy? And again, this is through my lens, and I'm sure as a therapist, you'll be able to pick up on things, little nuances that it has value in, or maybe some other piece of value that I didn't think about. And you can definitely stick your ideas in the comments below. And I hope at the end we have some time either for questions or just to have a discussion about you as a therapist being innovators, right? Because I'm all for Caribbean innovation and us making awesome things, and we'll come to that to the end. So, like I mentioned, therapists. So, communication is very, very, very key to taking care of patients for any kind of relationship. It doesn't matter whether it's your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your patient, whatever. It's very, very key. And when you have patients that aren't ambulant and they can't talk, it becomes very, very difficult to have that kind of rapport. So CommuniCare stands in that gap for people. It does not have the full gamut of vocabulary to be able to use, but it still takes the key things and allows the patients to be able to use that, and allows the clinicians also to be able to gain from that exchange with the patient. So one of the key things that we focus on at CommuniCare here is patient-centered care. That's key. That's one of our core values. So the patient is very important in the care process, as opposed to the patriarchal models for care that we've had and we've experienced in our own countries. As a matter of fact, most of our countries have a very patriarchal culture when it relates to medicine and treatment. And that's something that I guess you could say CommuniCare is trying to disrupt. Not so much destroy it, but to disrupt it so that we can see that there are important perspectives. And those perspectives should always include the patient as part of that clinical narrative. So, right. So I mentioned the situation for stroke patients, and you guys will probably see a lot of those, but you also have vehicular accident patients. So let's say you've been in a car accident, or even if you've had lassopharyngeal cancer or something like that, right? It affects your ability to talk. In some cases, your treatment may affect your ability to move. And it is also the case with some mothers that need to be in bed rest. You also have vehicular to make those kinds of adjustments. So using CommuniCare allows them to, one, be in bed and still be able to receive the care that they need. Now, I think the other thing that therapists totally understand is that there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of different people that engage in the care process. And the therapist it's sort of in the later part of it and continuing later part of the process. So the patient presents with the illness, they go to see the clinician, and then they're forwarded or they're referred to you guys, right? So it's key to be able to hold all of these parts together. So the therapist has something to say, the family has something to say, the caregivers that are being paid to stay in the home have something to say, and that can create quite a cloud of confusion. So we put CommuniCare in that space to also manage the care, manage the interactions between these people, manage the logs for the patient and that kind of thing. So now I've talked about two things, okay? Those are the core features of CommuniCare. One is the care management, and then two, it's the communication aspect of it. So I think how long have we been at it? Let me show you a little bit of it so that you can see. And I have a little giveaway at the end of this talk, and I hope that you guys can take advantage of it as well. So I'm going to just set up my devices here quickly and share my screen so that you can actually see what it looks like. So Stephanie, if you have any housekeeping to do and stuff, you could probably do it at this point while I get myself set up.
Why, thank you for that. I always have housekeeping to do. All right, thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and thanks again, Kheston. A couple of things I'd like to address is that we have a chat running underneath the video. So if you have any questions, please write your comments, your questions. I'll read them to Kheston and we answer them as you're not able to communicate with us. Second of all, we have a course evaluation, which is, I believe it's the last link on this page. If you guys can take 2 minutes of your time to give us some feedback so we can keep it in mind for our following webinars. Any questions, please message in the chat for me. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm back and I believe I'm ready. Yes, you can share, Okay, good. Okay, just give me a quick sec, guys. Okay, here we go. It's ready now. Okay, great. So you should be able to see my screen. And there are two screens up here. So one of them is the patient console and the other one is the care console. So I'm going to talk, the patient console should be on your right and the care console is on your left. Now, the patient console has some important parts. So one, we categorize everything based on what the patient wants, the patient feels, and who the patient wants to see. And then we have some quick menu options so that they can easily get food or bath or whatever it is that they need, or request assistance from the caregiver, right? You could think of it kind of like a panic button. If they hit it, the person will come by, or if they keep hitting it, then the person knows that something's really up or there's a worry or some kind of problem. So let's go through a couple of the options, and then I'll show you how CommuniCare starts bringing all these things together. So let's say the patient says, I want, and they really, really want to get their medicine because maybe the person has brought it late or something like that, right? So they make the request, and then that comes up in the little feed over here on the left. I'll hit it again so you can see it come up. Again, it says that I wanted this medicine. And this also comes up in all of the other members chat, all of the chats for the members of their care circle. So let me say this before we go on. With CommuniCare, the functional unit of CommuniCare is a care circle. The care circle is basically all of the people that are around this particular patient. The center of it is the patient console, and then the care console, which is the one on the left, which is what all the caregivers use. Okay, and the patient himself or herself can actually see what's going on in this chat between the people. Usually, you'd have people just kind of talking quietly in the corner while the patient doesn't know what's going on. We want to bring them into that process because it allows them to be able to validate things like the medicine that they were going to receive. So what I'm going to do is actually add a little bit of medicine for this particular patient. This is John Jacob. Get this in here. So I'm going to add some medicine. And she needs to get lisinopril, okay, because she has high blood pressure. And it's 10 milligrams of lisinopril. Boom. So now we've actually saved that, and it's logged as having been done. So John says, okay, you know what? I have received this medicine. So John simply taps on his device, and it confirms that that particular thing was done. Now, I can also, as a caregiver, since I was the one who administered it, I can also confirm that that particular thing was done. So you have this kind of validation or quality control in the care process so that the family members who are around wherever they are in the world could say, okay, listen, these things are actually being done. And it's done in a very neat, clear, intuitive way without having lots of forms. And I can tell you one of the main gripes that we've met with families when it comes to CommuniCare, it is having separate books for all of the nurses or the caregivers. So what happens is the person comes home with this, when they have a change of shift and they have all these books, they have to write over the notes from the person who spent their time there the previous day. And that can get troublesome, especially when you have to administer things like medicine, because you end up it's possible to end up giving the patient 2 doses of insulin. And we know that we don't want to give the patient 2 doses of insulin. That's a very, very bad idea. So I've shown you now how the care circle itself actually works and the benefit to the patient. And what I'll do now is sort of give you the onboarding process for a patient. So this is now for you as an occupational therapist. Maybe you see patients and they're home patients, or you want to help a family manage their, you want to support a family as they manage this transition of their family member being all well and good and then being terribly ill. I'm going to walk you through the onboarding process for this now. So there's a big plus button at the bottom of the screen. You hit that, and then this allows you to add a new member. So let's call this person Janet. Janet Plimsoll. Let's call her Plimdoll. That's fine. Let me just take this over and put it at the bottom. Plimsoll. Okay, great. So she's female, and she's born or just make it easy. She's born today, okay? Just for ease of use. And then you have the conditions that the patient has, okay? So let's say she has asthma. That's my autocorrect there. And she has allergies, she has none. And preferences, she hates peanut butter. And then you can stick in whatever other notes that you want for that patient. And this can be updated at any time. So if you have something like the care plan for the patient and that needs to be changed, the families can actually make those changes inside of the app. Or you can make the changes inside of the app for the family to know. Okay? So when you hit next, now Janet Plimsoll's care circle is made. But a care circle is not a circle with just one person. You need to add some more people to it. So you can come across here in the slider menu on the side, and then you can add some patients. So you can say, okay, manage care circle. You manage the care circle by adding people. So let's just say email at email.com. Whoever that is, and you can give them a position. So they can be administrator or a caregiver. And there'll be lots of other options as well that we will be putting in, like maybe it's the driver, maybe it's whoever is important. And this allows sort of separation of concerns when it comes to setting things up. So you confirm the invitation, and now that person has received this invite. And when they've gotten notified, they'll be able to download the app and also join the care circle. So it is literally as simple as those steps. And that's about a 3-step process to creating the care circle, inviting a person, and then having them accept that invite and engage. So what I would also like to show you guys is something that we think is very, very cool. We initially did it just for the patient, but we realized it has a lot of value also for the other family members. So if you looked inside of the chat, let's go back to the patient console here. If you looked inside of the chat, you would have seen that there was some. Yep. There's a question.
To make your any bigger? Sorry, your screen.
Which one they want to see?
I'm not sure.
I can make it. This is the absolute biggest I can make it.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry.
Okay. Carry on.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So we're actually almost done with this process. So there's some, what I mentioned before was there being some up and down arrows, some thumbs up and thumbs down arrows. The thumbs up and thumbs down arrows allows the patient to quickly say whether they like something or not. So I'll give you an example. The family is coming over for karaoke. Okay, let's say that's what's going on. And the patient's like, Jacob's like, no, absolutely not. We really don't want that. She can downvote that quickly without having to write a whole set of messages. So it makes it quick for them. But it's also cool for teams of clinicians to work together. So maybe there's one senior occupational therapist or one senior therapist or whatever, and they have other people who work with them. And they make their assessments out in the field or at the home, and they say, okay, these are my notes on the patient, and these are the things that I think you guys should consider. And all the other clinicians can chime in and say, okay, yes, that's definitely something that we want to do. And it's sort of gives an index for the general impetus for the clinicians, or the general idea for the clinicians that they want to move forward with. So that, in a sense, again, comes back to that whole quality of care, quality control type thing. So I'm going to summarize now, okay? And then I'm going to open up for questions or probably carry on the discussion about some other things. But one, CommuniCare is about care management and helping the families to manage the care of their loved ones from anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter if you're in Australia and your mother is in Jamaica, or if you're in Trinidad and the person's in New York, or if you're in Negril and your loved one is in Montego Bay. Wherever you are, you can still be able to know or have your finger on the pulse as it relates to the quality of care of that patient. And what we also looked at was what the patient has to interact with. and all the options that they can use in order to be able to talk with people. They can say things like their mood, they can request assistance, say they need to go to the toilet, say all of these key things. And all of these things that they do say, they're time-stamped and logged so that you can track over time the quality of care for the patient or the quality of care that the patient's receiving. And then we touched on the important thing about patient-centered care. And that's why we showed all this about the patient consult and all that. And then lastly, the communication and care management between all of the other caregivers and how that's done via the care console, via this little thing here. And we looked at how they actually include other members and add members to their care circle and that sort of thing. So I hope that was clear for you. If it was not, then I'll be happy to go over some of it another time. You can check out the website. It's communicarecc.com, communicarecc.com. You can check it out, and you can email me at Kheston Walkins, and we'll put it in the chat, khestonwalkins@communicarecc.com. So thanks a lot for your time. I'm going to open up for questions now, and let's get the discussion going.
Okay, thank you so much, Kheston, for that. I do have a couple of questions. One of the questions were, if a person is not able to manually hold their tablet, is there any kind of adaptations for it?
If what, sorry?
If a person is not able to physically hold a computer or a tablet, is there any adaptations to help accommodate this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we did when we ran some of the, for some of our clients and also some of the pilots that we did in Trinidad, we gave them tablet mounts, right? We set the mounts up at the side of the bed and the tablet goes on that, and it can pivot and rotate and all that, and they use that for, they use that in order to save the patient having to hold up the tablet and all that stuff. So some people also use little bed tables. I don't know what you call it, like little breakfast tables for in bed. They also put the tablet on there with a stand, and that also works. But we highly recommend using the mount because it allows the easy, if the patient has to be removed from the bed or if they have to be put on the bed, it allows it to be able to move the way very easily and easy to charge and all that. So yeah, that's my answer.
Do you sell these devices or these items that they purchase separate from CommuniCare?
Good question. So the devices, we don't sell them. We don't need to. We sell the technology. So it works on Android and also on iOS. And actually, if you guys go to the iOS store, I've set it up so that you guys can actually get CommuniCare for free today. So you just go and download it. You have to go to CommuniCare. Just go in the Android store. It's on Android for now. That's what you'll get. CommuniCare, and you'll see the logo. And we'll put the link inside of the description for you as well, so you can take advantage of that. But like I said, it'll be free for you at least for the next month and a half. So do use it, do get patients on. And if you have to send any feedback or you have any challenges with it, do let us know. Because we're real people making this product. It's not a faceless company somewhere. We're real people in the Caribbean who are really trying to move healthcare forward.
All right, thank you for that. I know we like free things. I'm actually getting a lot of messages, and not through the page on ACOT, but also through my phone. One of the questions is, how do they access this, and what's the cost like?
Okay, sure. So for you guys, for like I said, next month and a half, it's free. Outside of that, it's $14 US, $14.99 US, which is, it's like a T-shirt. It's cheaper than a T-shirt. $14.99 for the month and recurring. And the patient can pay that, or the clinician, and then it's included in the bill. It depends on how you guys want to organize that. And you can use either Apple Pay or PayPal in order to make the purchase.
Okay. Some more questions for you. The graphics might be a little bit difficult for some people visually impaired, or some challenges like that. Is there any way to change the graphics, or what's the word, adjustable is it?
Yeah. So at the moment, we have not allowed the community to be able to add photos yet because we want to learn, and it's easier for us to manage it if we do it. So if there are some illustrations that aren't clear or don't make sense, then use the support use the support channels that are on the App Store, or you could use the email that I just sent you, and we will listen to you. We will definitely listen to you and make iterations, because we're making this for you, right? We're making this for you, therapists and clinicians. So yeah, feel free to reach out if it doesn't meet your needs.
Okay. Another question, as this is an app that we download, it's accessible pretty much anywhere worldwide, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's also in Spanish, okay? So if you have a patient that's Spanish, then you can take advantage of it as well.
Okay. Is there a support contact number or somebody we can contact in case anything should happen?
Yeah, you can use my number. I'll give it to you. I'm in Trinidad, so you have to add 868 at the front. Let me just pull it up here. It's 739-8418. So that's 1-868-739-8418. Yeah, and you can reach me. WhatsApp is probably the best place. And if you want to reach me on Instagram, maybe you'll do a lot on.
Okay, another question. Somebody is requesting that we share the link in the chat that's embedded on the web page. Can you remind me of the link? It was CommuniCare. Hello? Kheston, you okay? Kheston, you're offline? Well, come sit next to me then. I'll just run a thing from here. Use Keelzone. Can you all hear me? Oh, great. So as you guys can hear me, I think Keston had a little technical difficulty that he's trying to figure out right now. Um, I met Keston through a doctor. He was actually referred to help me with occupational therapy to engage a patient who was immobilized. She was in bed. She had severe muscle weakness, so she wasn't able to speak or communicate with her family. Her daughter would travel often to Grenada, so her CommuniCare came in really, really handy. While her daughter was in Grenada, she was able to follow up with the nurses and technicians to see if she was taking her medication, if she was in pain, who came over to the house without the use of a webcam or any type of camera installed inside her bedroom. So she actually felt at home and rested. My patient was also very social. So she used to talk a lot to her friends and family. So this worked out pretty well. And that's how I met Keston. And that's why I'm so happy we have CommuniCare. CommuniCare is also growing drastically. Do we have any questions for him? Okay, so CommuniCare, one question, how is CommuniCare able to work in occupational therapy? Well, one, it also provides a platform for patients to communicate. They can express their feelings, their emotions, their needs, their desires, their wants, which is something that people are unable to do sometimes physically. Another question I see here is what diagnosis would commonly use this device? Um, the people that I have worked with using CommuniCare are usually persons who have stroke, ALS, they're bedridden for some reason. Um, another interesting feature is that you can use eye tracking instead of actually physically touching the screen. There's a way that they coordinate the camera from your device to follow your eye movements. So, for example, I can stare at